Welcome everybody, my name is Robert Garza and this is router bit video number 2. This is going to be all cutting. I'm going to show you a lot of bits and we're going to be cutting on the router table here. I'm going to show you how to make different types of templates, how to get all different types of shapes, trim rings. We're going to start off with something a little bit basic. We're going to do a chamfer, we're going to do a roundover, we're going to do a cove, and even a real heavy rabbet. I've got some 1-inch MDF. I've got my 4 bits here on the table. Face shield, I always recommend when you're working on the router table, give you more protection to your face. We're going to start off with the chamfer, cut that bad boy, and then move on and I'll show you how they all look. Now when you're mounting your bits, you want to make sure that you're eye level and you bring your bearing up in the base of the bit right where you want it. Now this is a piece of 1-inch MDF and you can see I've got plenty of bearing. You could use a 3/4, even a 1/2 inch. This is a 25-degree chamfer, one of the most popular bits right here. So I'm going to do a full cut. I'm going to use every bit of that bit that I can. There we go. Always want to go nice and easy until you get the bearing on there. Keep your fingers away from the bit at all time and let the bit do the cutting. You never want to force it. Right up to the edge. I always like to do a second pass just to make sure that we got it all. And there you can see that nice shape there. And you can even bring it around the corner without a problem. So here's our 25-degree chamfer, say it however you wish. And I'm going to do now a 3/4 inch roundover on the other 2 panels, and I'll show them to you side by side. So now we're going to set our height, just like before, a full cut. Bring your wood right up to the edge. You don't want to be too high. Although some bits, like this one, you have your blade all the way down to the bottom, and so it'll do that nice flat edge for you if you wanted it to. So you could use all of this blade without an issue. But we're just going to do the roundover for now. So I'm going to put it right level with the wood. Right there. Okay, I'm going to do the same side, but the opposite 2 pieces. So I did this with the chamfer. This one here, and this one here. So now I'm going to do this edge and this edge. Starting here and going this way. I'm just going to stop there for a second and show you that I came in about a good inch in. Okay, you don't want to come in on the corner. It's really unstable to do that. Come in about an inch in, and if you're going to do the whole piece, you'll get this on the back side. Now we're cutting a lot of material here. 3/4 inch roundover. Right to the corner. Now you can see side by side, here is the roundover. A bit of a roundover shape there. And then on this side, here's the chamfer, which is just a straight 25-degree. You can also get that in a 45-degree. So there's those 2 pieces, side by side. So there you've seen those 2 pieces, not a big deal. The chamfer, the roundover are the 2 most popular trims to put on a piece. You can use it for panels, you can use it for just about anything. You can even use it to create a handle. I'm going to show you guys, after we're done with this basic stuff, how to make this. This is an actual handle that's completely round. It's made out of MDF. It's very easy to make. It's got some pieces of feet here, and you can make that at any size, any shape you want. So these basic techniques will go to make something really cool. So let's do two more. I want to do the cove, which is basically the reverse of a roundover. It's dome-shaped bit, and then we want to do the big rabbit. So let's get the cove bit in here now. Now this cove bit that I've chosen is really big. I got the biggest bits I could get my hands on for you guys, so it'll be easier to see on camera. But you can see that this bearing is already taller than this 1-inch MDF, so you have to be careful of that. And I'm going to bring it down to where we cut through about 3/4 of the wood. So I'm putting that bearing pretty much lining up with the top 1/4 inch of the MDF. So that's going to be a nice big cut. Got our cove bit in. It's lined up with the top 1/4 inch of the 1-inch MDF. Now when you're using these large bits like this 3/4 roundover, this 3/4 inch cove, or the big rabbit, you want to slow your router down as slow as you can. Because remember, if it's 20,000 in the center, it could be even 35,000 all the way at the outside, and you'll burn your wood. So I've slowed my router down as far as it will go, which is about 10,000 RPM, which is still a really good speed. It'll cut nice, and it won't ruin your bit. And remember, all of these bits that I'm showing, I'm only using one, but they come in all different sizes. The roundovers come anywhere from 1/8 of an inch all the way up to 3/4, and everything in between. They come with 1/2 inch and 1/4 inch shanks, so every size is available, not an issue. All right, so we got our cove bit there, our 1-inch MDF. I'm going to throw my face shield on, and away we go. This cove bit, you can see, is really aggressive. Puts that nice dome shape. So you got to be really careful with it. Again, I started about 1 inch in the piece just like this. What you also want to do when you're using these bits, and I haven't done it, but I'm going to do it with the rabbit, is depending on what depth you want the cut to be, always do about 80 or 90% on your first pass, and then come back and do your last 10 or 20%. What that'll do is it'll eliminate any of the vibrations and the jumps that you see or the imperfections that you see from the bit, because it's cutting very, very little. It's just a really quick trim on that last 10%. And so all you have to do is raise this bad boy up, a 1/16 of an inch, run it through, and you're going to have that perfect finish. So there's our cove bit, really aggressive, really deep, and I'm going to do the rabbit on the other side. All right, we're ready for the Mac Daddy here. This is the 3/4 inch rabbiting bit with replaceable blades, with replaceable bearings, and collar set. Have a look at this one, okay? You can see the nuts here. You take these out, you can replace these blades. You can not only replace them, but you can flip them around because they're sharp on the inside as well. So you can get 2 uses out of each blade, and then you can get the new ones for very inexpensively. On here, it's a double bearing setup with a collar, and these collars can range all the way out to here, all the way out to 2 inches, so you'll get just a 1/16 inch cut, or all the way to the inside, which will give you a 3/4 inch cut. Now we're going to cut with the rabbiting bit, 1-inch MDF. I'm going to come up just under 1/2 of an inch, and I'm going to come in just about 1/2 an inch as well. And then on the last pass, I'm going to do the other 90%. Now we have our rabbit bit in. We want to do about 90% of a 1/2 inch cut. So I'm going to take my ruler, and I'm going to set it 1/16 under. Now my cut here from the collar on the outside is giving me 5/8. And when I take this collar off, it'll give me 3/4 by 1/2 inch. So it'll give me 3/4 by 1/2 inch so we can flush mount a nice plexi window in there. So let's cut it. We're going to do this on the opposite side of the cove. Remember that 1 inch rule. Just my rule, it's a safety rule. Now you have to go very slow on this because this thing's very, very aggressive. Hold on to your piece really tight. And what I do is I swivel this way. Keep this hand right where it's at and push in this way. Because what's happening is all the force is going this way into this hand when the bit is cutting. So this hand is reinforcing it, and I'm rolling it in real nice and easy. Putting some down pressure, letting the bit do its work. And there you have your nice rabbit bit. Shut that bad boy down because it'll definitely take your fingers off when you're not looking. So once that stops spinning, okay. So here's your rabbit bit right there. Nice rabbit. We're not finished with the rabbit bit. We want to do that other 10%. So we want to take our Allen wrench set, and I'm going to take the collar off. There's one bearing there. I'm going to take this bearing out. Put the bearing right there. Put this back on, and now we have a 3/4 cut. And so now all we have to do is raise that rabbit up to the 1/2 inch that we want. Make sure this is good and snug. Not over tight, but tight enough, and always check the bearings, make sure they're moving freely. Take your ruler and bring it up to the 1/2 inch mark, and we'll be ready to cut again. You see, it's going to cut very, very little. And there it is, right there. A nice 3/4 indentation, 1/2 inch deep. Put a piece of plexiglass right in there. That would be perfect. So there was a little teaser. We've got your chamfer, nice straight edge, 25 degrees, also 45 available. Here's your round over, nice smooth. You can do this anywhere from 1/8 of an inch to a 3/4 inch. Here's your cove, which you have in a bunch of different sizes. I believe somewhere between 3/8 and 3/4. Nice shape, the reverse of the round over. And the rabbit, which you can use for flush mounting plexiglass windows or another piece of wood. You can also take the 3/4 inch round over and a 3/4 inch cove and mate them together. So if you're making something in the car and you're not sure what angle you're going to make it on, check this out. You can have these two mated together, and you have a piece here that you can set at whatever angle the seat is or the trunk or whatever, and then you can glue it and staple it together, and it will seam up perfectly. Here's the next thing I'm going to show you. Here's your radio. I know it's only a piece of MDF, but let's say you have a radio or a monitor, crossover, amplifier, doesn't matter. You want to flush mount it, or you want to make an amp rack. You want to mount it in the dash, mount it in the kick panel. You want to do something with it. Cut a piece 1/2 inch thick, the exact size. Okay? Get the exact size off the radio. Measure it, cut out a piece of wood. So this is it. Now I'm going to show you how to make a trim panel for it out of wood and also plexiglass. Okay? Perfect hole, perfect radius on the inside, perfect radius on the outside. So we'll do one at a time, and I'll tell you what you're going to need. Let's start with the wood. It's a little easier, and then we'll do the plastic in a minute. You're going to need a couple different router bits. You're going to need a flush trim, 1/2 inch. Okay? Make sure that the length of the cutting surface is long enough. I mean, we're only using 1/2 inch wood here, so all of them are at least 1 inch, or this one's 1.5 inches. That's the one I like to use. You're also going to need a 1/4 inch or 3/8 flush trim to match the radius of that radio or the monitor or amplifier, whatever it is. But remember, on these smaller bits, they're not designed for heavy cutting. So this is just for that last 10% to clean it out and do the little bit of the corners. The first step's very simple. I'm sure you guys may have seen this before, maybe not. But we got our brad nailer. I've got 1/2 inch brads in it for 1/2 inch sticks. I've got 3 sticks here, 1/2 inch by 3/4. All I'm going to do is take my fictitious radio, and this is the dash. This is where I want to mount it. This is the piece of plastic. This is the piece of MDF. Let's say you're making a console with a CD player and a monitor in it. Place that right on top. Place it exactly where you want it. If you want, get your ruler out and center it up perfectly, front and back, side to side. And then take your strips and place them right where you want them, and then nail them down. Once it's centered, take your pieces of wood. Now on the first one, you're going to line it up right with the edge, clean with this edge. Okay? Take your brad nailer, 1/2 inch brads, because they're going to countersink. Take one of your long pieces. This will go here. Now you want this to be 90 degrees. Make sure it's nice and tight here. Okay? 90 degrees. This is what we've got so far. There's our radio or monitor, amplifier, whatever. So take your other piece. Sometimes this piece can be a little tough to get out once you put in the last piece, but you have it resting on this piece which is stapled down and resting on this piece which is stapled down. So we only need to stand this up, put it right here just like so, put in the last piece, and brad nail it down. And now what you have, I'm not going to push it back in there, but you have a perfect square where you want to mount your piece. The next thing we need to do is drill a hole in it. Put our brad nailer away. Now if you haven't used this product before, you definitely want to get one in your shop. Any shop owners watching, this will save your trash cans and your countertops. It's a piece of 6-inch styrofoam. We call it, is it Wonder Foam? Jiggy foam. We call it jiggy foam. And it's perfect for jigsawing. It holds your piece nice and flat. You're not going to slip and cut your finger or cut the counter or the trash can. It's great for drilling. It's great for big projects. Now what we want to do to save some of the life of our router bit is take the jigsaw and cut in, but stay about 1/4 inch away from the inside. Always cut away from your body and away from your fingers. So that's what it looks like now. You still obviously have some really rough edges. And you could do this with a jigsaw, which many of you have, but you're never going to get it absolutely perfect unless you use a router. So there's our rough cut. We can put our jigsaw on the side. Put our jiggy foam on the side. Think of all the trash cans I just saved. Now we've got our flush trim router bit here set to go to the center of our guides, and it will naturally put a 1/2 inch radius in every corner. So if you're working with a big amp rack, that'll be fine. You've got your big piece of wood, plastic, carbon fiber, plexiglass, whatever. You do all your trim panels on, and you cut it all out, it'll be absolutely perfect. Careful not to put too much pressure because these things will flex a little bit, so we just want to go easy. Now there's our piece. Right there on the back there, you can see our piece. Now that gives us, you can see that 1/2 inch radius right here in the corner because it matches the 1/2 inch flush trim router bit. But this is a radio, and most radios have 1/4 inch. So what we need to do is take that bit out, take the 1/4 inch bit, which is this one right here. And now this is very, very easy. All we need to do on this is touch the corner just to give it the radius. Now what you do is you take your SP wand or chisel, take the pieces off, and there you have a perfect rectangle for mounting the radio, like I said, monitor, amplifier, whatever you want, with a nice radius. Now you can do this in 3/8. We have 3/8 bits. This is the 1/4. 1/2 is natural. You can even do a 3/4 if you wanted to. You do a 3/4 flush trim if you wanted a larger radius than a standard. Before I make one of these out of plastic, I want to show you something else that's very cool, depending on what you're making. If you're making some kind of pop-in grill, let's say, and you want to radius the outside edges, and you're not going to sit there on the sander and not make it perfect or sit there with a jigsaw. We make these radius jigs, which you can use on wood and plastic. There's 6 different sizes on 3 different panels. And you got 1/2 inch, 3/4 inch, 1.25 inch, 1.5 inch, and even a 2 inch radius. But on these, I'm thinking the 1/2 inch, maybe even the 3/4. Let's do a 3/4 radius. What you do with this piece is it has little fingers on it. You just slide your piece of wood into it, and you run your bearing along the radius, and it gives you a nice cut. Now the only difference, we're using a different bit, spiral, 1/4 inch, flush trim, 1/4 inch collet. Going to line it up the same way, right in the middle. This one's got 2 bearings on it, so it gives you a little bit more riding space. And we want to come up, put the bearing right there in the middle. Slow it down all the way, even though it's a small diameter. We're talking about plastic, which can melt very easily. So keep the speed down. You can see it trims very easy. That spiral. Spirals are awesome. And there she is, all done. Now we've already got our 1/4 inch radius on the inside because we used a 1/4 inch bit to cut it. So we can take this off now. There's no other work to really be done with it unless we wanted to get a little bit creative with it. We can take that chamfer bit right now, ride it along the wood here, and give us a nice beveled edge inside. I mean, there's endless things we could do to it. We could round the corners like we did before. We could bevel the edge. We could bevel both edges. There's really a lot you can do on the router and get some really cool shapes going. And there's our clear piece ready to go. And we cut it in no time at all. Time is money in the shop. You want to make money, you need to get it done fast. We got 2 identical pieces, one out of wood and one out of plexi. So let's take some of the basic things that I've shown you and combine them all and even throw in a few new tricks. Let's say we want to make some kind of panel for the car. You really have an idea or a picture in your mind. You know what you want it to look like. You know what you want it to house. If it wants to house a speaker, monitor. So here I have a piece just of 1/2 inch. It's about a 12 inches square. I really didn't measure it. I just grabbed a piece of scrap. And we want to do a speaker. So we want, kind of a speaker in this area, and we want to maybe have a hard edge and then maybe a radiused edge, kind of like maybe a teardrop. That's not really radiused. How about we do it more like this, and then round over that, or we can just leave that as a hard edge. Let's see that mounts up to another piece of the car, like the trim underneath the dash there. So let's leave those two edges hard, or square, nice 90 there. And then we have a radius somewhere in this area. We have a nice hard straight line from this point to that point. You can use a ruler, obviously, to draw it out. And then let's say a 5 1/4, 6 1/2, right in that. So we want to make that. Use what you have. Let's say this is a 5 1/4. We can lay that right where we want it, and it'll give us a perfect radius and perfect mount for the speaker, right there. And with our sticks, we can take one of our sticks, I'm going to place that right there, and take one of our sticks, and that hard edge that we wanted, we can place it right where we want it here, okay? So here's something new. These are our ABS rods. This is a 1/4 inch. We also have 3/8. And you can use them for those crazy shapes that you can't get from a ring and you can't get from a straight line. I mean, these will bend. If you're doing something long, you can take a 1/2 inch by a 1/2 inch MDF and you can bend a nice radius. But with this ABS rod, this stuff is the coolest. Let me show you. I'm going to nail these down, the ring and the straight piece, right where I have it now, because that's right where I want them. I'm going to put 3 in that one. I'm going to line this one up here. I'm going to put 3 there. So here's our 2 pieces. And now let's say that we want this nice curved edge here. Bend the ABS rod how you want it. Try not to get any hops in it. You can basically see where you want it. We want to follow that pencil line and get that right on there. So I almost have it, it's almost bending the way I want it. I need a little bit more bend, because the glue will hold it down, but if the plastic is fighting you, you're going to be out of luck. So I'm going to take some glue. I'm going to basically glue in my anchor position there. I'm going to follow the line that you see here with the rod. So I take a little bit of super glue, speed glue, pardon me. Boss is going to yell at me now. Hit the accelerator and then place it right where you want it. And do that until you're finished. Now I've got my piece glued on. We've got our ring, we've got our straight edge, we've got our ABS rod, we've got these 2 hard edges that fictitiously line up to the car. And we've got it glued down. Now we're going to run the bearing on the outside. So what we want to do is put a line of glue on the inside. You can do inside and outside, since the bearing will cut it off as you pass. But you want to make sure that it's on and it's not going to come off while you're cutting. See, we got this nice straight line, and then we have this hole right here. Now we can do one of 2 things. We can make that part of the design where we run it in, or we can cut off a piece of our rods here, and we can do a little bridge with the ABS rod. You can do anything with this stuff. It's really, really awesome. So we can put that right in the spot that we want. Put our speed glue down. A little line there. Take your activator and spray the rod. Flip the activator down and place it right where you want it. And voila, you've got that little spacer there. And now the bearing will ride right along that for you. You also definitely want to make sure that you reinforce the strength there. So put some glue at both ends. Give it a minute. Hit it with the activator. We've got our piece ready to go. I've drilled a hole for the speaker. Now we want to pre-cut all this excess off and come pretty close. On the wood, it's not so necessary, but within 1/4 of an inch or less, especially around the ABS rod. So get out your jiggy foam and your jigsaw. Don't forget your eye protection and cut away. I'll do the easy side first. There's our piece. Be extra careful along the ABS rod, but you can see it's starting to take shape. Now with this corner here, I'm just going to leave it as a hard edge. Give it a little bit more style. But now we have our two pieces here. Now I've got a flush trim double bearing router bit in here. I'm using the 2 bearings because it gives me a little bit more stability. Plus I can line up the bottom bearing with the ABS, and when I get onto the wood I'll be riding on 2 bearings. So the setup on this one is very crucial to get it so that the cutting blade is right above the wood. Lining up the bearing is very crucial. Want it nice and tight. Don't put too much pressure on here, because if you can pop the ABS rod right off. And here's our piece. Look at it from the back side. And a nice speaker. We got our hard edge here. We can pull this off now. We can take the speaker ring off. We can take the ABS rod off. And you can see a really cool shape that didn't take us very long. And now we can do whatever we want from this. We can make a bunch of duplicates, make inserts. Okay guys, ready for the next one? I'm going to show you how to make this handle. It's 1 inch thick and it's round. I made it out of MDF. I made it out of one of these with the router. But I'm one of those type of installers that hates to do the same thing twice. So we're going to do a little something different. What you want to start off with, I took a 15-inch speaker ring and I just cut it up into pieces. Take your 1-inch MDF, just like you've seen before. I stapled it on here. I got the flush trim. I did the inside, I did the outside. I was left with this. But we already have one of those. So let's compound the problem, if you will. I've got here a flush trim, 2 bearings. We've got, let's see here. We've got 2 1/4, about 2 inches of cutting surface. So we've got a lot of blade there. So what that'll allow you to do is multiple jigs. So let's say we want the standard one that I just made, which is basically we just staple this half circle to this piece of wood. And let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to line it up, make sure it's right where I want it. To get some air. I had to go a little longer brad because it's a 3/4 inch wood. I had it lined up. Put a 4th one in there for the fun of it. Okay? So now, if we were to trace that with the flush trim, you'd get a duplicate of this. But let's take the other one and put it opposite. And maybe halfway down. And staple that in place. So now you have something that looks a little crazy. But what we want to do is we're going to run the inside on both of these. We're going to line up the bottom bearing with the bottom piece, the top bearing with the top piece, and it's going to give us this shape right here. And you can do that with a straight piece. Let's say we just wanted a flat handle. You could use the radius and then use a flat piece, and you'd have a flat handle with two nice radiuses on either side. And then when we come around to the back side, we're just going to do the outside radius. Where the two bearings meet, right in the center, use that as a line. You can put that line right here where these two jigs meet. And make sure you have plenty of cutting blade, which we do. Nice 2-inch cutting blade. So we put our headgear on and have at it. Okay, it's still lined up with both pieces. You can see what you got there. There's your perfect shape right there. So now what we want to do is lower the bit so that the bearing is just above the cutting surface. And you can pull this piece off. And we can do this outside radius. This is a pretty big piece, so I do recommend that you pre-cut it. So I pre-cut it about 1/4 of an inch away, and now it'll come out just nice here. There she is. Let's get the piece off here. And there's our handle. I think it'd look really cool if we put a hole in here. So let's come up with some little template so that we have like maybe a handle within a handle. That'll look really cool. So I went and cut a piece of plexi. It's a little 1x3, and that fits in there just nicely. Now I could do a couple different things. I could just cut the hole out, wrap it, inlay it, maybe fill it with liquid ice. Could do a bunch of things. But the handle's starting to get a little fragile. So what I want to do here is I want to tape on the blocks, the spacer pieces, as opposed to brad nailing them on, because if I keep brad nailing this piece, then it's not really going to be strong anymore. So here's our piece all set up. We're ready to cut a 1x3 hole in it. So now we just need to drill a hole and run it around. Got our holes drilled. Now we're ready to go and cut those out. Gotta be very careful with these. Get the piece firmly down. And there you have it. How nice is that? So now we need to make it round. And we can do that with a round over bit. Now we have the 3/4, and I even have a 1/2 inch. And we need to be concerned about how much spacing we have between the center hole and the outer hole. If this had been a solid piece like the one I made previously, I just used the 3/4 and ran it around without a care in the world. So let's do the 1/2 inch and see how it looks. I've got the 1/2 inch round over installed. Now the washer just underneath the bearing, I have that lined up with the center line of this, 1/2 inch up. Now where you come into the edge, be careful. If you want that flat, then you're going to have to stop right before you get to the edge. If you want to round over, then you just keep going. It's your choice. But that's looking like perfect. I have matched up the tops and the bottoms. Now here's our next bit, and this is a bit you'll get a lot of use out of. We call it the inlay bit. Comes with 3 bearings, comes with a little Allen wrench, and it's basically a miniature rabbiting bit. It's only about 3/4 inch in diameter, so you can get into a lot tighter spots, because most rabbit bits are 1.5 inches or bigger. And what we want to do with this one is let's do a little rabbit inside our handle there. I've changed the bearing on the inlay bit to one size larger than the one that comes on it, because it comes with 3. And that'll give us a 1/8 rabbit. It has even a bigger bearing that'll give you a 1/16 inch rabbit, which is perfect for vinyl. This one is perfect for carpet or for whatever you want, and then you can even put the smallest bearing, which will give you 3/8. But what I'm thinking on this is we can do a nice 1/8 inch rabbit on both sides of this, and we can press fit in a couple pieces of plexi. As you can see, I have the bit in place. This is a 1/4 inch piece of acrylic, and I lined up the cutting edge with the very top of the acrylic, and we're going to rabbit out the inside of both sides of our handle. Now that our piece is done, for the most part, we've got our rabbit in here 1/4 inch deep. Now what you want to do is cut a piece of acrylic to fit in here. Now I've got a piece here, it's 1.5 by 3 3/4, and it won't actually fit in because of the radius of the inlay bit. But it will fit in this way, and that's how we can check it. We can check that it fits in lengthwise and widthwise. So I know that it's the right size. All I have to do is radius the edges. So we've got our radius jig here. We have a 1/2 inch radius here, 3/4 radius. The 3/4 radius matches up just about perfectly. So we're going to take our plexi to show you guys again. It fits in lengthwise, and it also fits in height-wise. But it won't fit in because of the radiuses. So once we trim the radiuses, it should pop right in there. So I'm going to take a little bit of Kent tape, and I'm going to put a piece on here. And be careful not to scratch the plastic. And I'm going to tape it in place so that both edges, both smooth edges, are lined up with the plastic. Now this one will naturally line up because it's got the stop there. So all we have to do is line this one up. We need to inch it forward just a hair. And once you have it exactly where you want it, you can squeeze it down and hold it there. Now I've got the double bearing flush trim. It's one of my favorites, so I use that one a lot. And all you're going to do is go just like that. You're going to do that 4 times, and it'll be ready. There's our piece. Radiused edges. Here's our handle. And it fits in perfectly. Now we can make 2, which I have. And you can pop in a piece of plastic. You could even fill it with liquid ice. You can do whatever you want. We're going to make an amp rack cover. Okay? I've got a 3/4 inch piece of MDF. It's 1 foot by 2, 1 by 2. 1 foot by 2 foot. Now what I want to do with this piece is I want to put a couple of holes in it. I want to put a plexiglass window flush mounted in from the back side. I want to taper the edges. I want to radius the corners. And we're going to dress this bad boy up. I'm going to do a square on one side, circle on the other. I've got a 1/2 inch piece, 8 by 8. We use that for our size. Also going to put a plexiglass window, so what I've done is I've cut a 9 by 9, giving us a 1/2 inch all the way around, so we can mount this from the back side. I've got my sticks, just like you've seen me use in the past, and I've got an 8-inch ring because I want to do a circle on the other side and then do some really cool shaping. Didn't like that angle. There we go. Sometimes the wood is wavy, so try and get the flattest part of the MDF up against your square. Putting 3 in each. All right, here we go. Connect the dots. All right. All right, now there's our square. Now we're going to leave these on for now, because if we're going to use a larger bit, we can still use them as guides. Mark this as the top. Okay. I've got the rabbit bit set with the 1/2 inch collet on it, so that means it's going to give us a cut of 1/2 inch. Keep your speed as consistent as you can. Okay, there's our first pass. As you can see, it's looking pretty good. Nice room for that plexi window. And at this point, you can test fit it to make sure that you got room both ways. Now with that collet set, you can make more room if you're going to wrap vinyl around it, or tweed, or suede, or carpet, whatever you want. I just did the 1/2 inch to make it nice and tight to show you the accuracy, but we could have made it a little larger and then wrapped whatever we wanted into it. And this can be used in either fashion. I mean, this could be the top if you wanted to, if you wanted your windows to pop down inside the install, or from the reverse side and mount them in permanently. It's totally up to you. So here's our piece. We have our window, we have our rabbit. Now we've only done the single pass. We need to do the next pass. So I'm going to set it at 1/2 inch and do our last pass. and that will give us the exact depth that we want. Here we go with our second pass. As you could hear, very little work going on by that bit because it just barely touched everything, but it made the surface perfect. So now we're going from one of the biggest, or actually the biggest router bits that we have to one of the smallest, and you want to plan your work that way. You want to do all your heavy cutting first and then do your lighter cutting towards the end because it's going to put less stress on your piece. So here's our top, our bottom, we got our rabbet in there. Now we're going to just round over that edge. So I've set this height so I can get maximum bite out of it without going over. Sounds like the price is right. I'm going to run the bearing right along this edge and just clean that little bit up. There you can see, rounded over square. Gives it that nice touch. We're ready to cut the plexi window and get it to fit in. Now this rabbet bit is 2 inches in diameter. How I know that is I took my measuring device here and checked it. And from tip to tip, all the way across, from blade to blade, it's 2 inches. So that's naturally going to give us a 2-inch radius. And in order to get this plastic to fit in there, we're going to have to trim a 2-inch radius on it, just like I just showed you earlier. And you could even take the radius jig and check it with your piece and make sure that it's going to fit. And it fits right in there perfectly. So it's great about these jigs. You can do your piece very quickly. As long as you hold it up nice and tight, it'll give you the perfect radius every time. And there it is. Fits perfect. Flip it over, and you have a real nice window. Ready for window number 2. We'll do this one a little bit different. I'm going to start off with an 8-inch ring, place it right where I want it, which is basically 2 inches from this side and about 1 3/4 inches from top and bottom, which centers it up for me. I'm going to staple it in place. Nice and secure. And we're going to follow the same procedures. We're going to drill a hole, pre-cut, pop the hole in there, get that done. There's our hole. Here comes our pre-cut. Okay. Now we're going to do a little different on this one. Is we're going to shape the top side. Pulled the ring off. I'm going to reattach the ring to the back side. Put 3 new ones in for good measure. And now what I want to do is put a really deep groove on this side. I mean really deep, almost all the way through about 1/8 of an inch. And the only way we can do that is we have a bearing that we can ride on this other piece here. So I'm thinking that cove bit is really cool. The middle of the bearing is level with this. Now it's going to give us that big monster cut. Now remember the 90-10 rule. We're not going to want to cut all of this in one pass because that is a monster bit. So even though I just want to leave an 1/8 of an inch left on the other side, I'm still going to drop this down and only cut about 90% and then come back and clean it up. So I'm going to drop it down so that the top of this bearing is with the top of this surface here. Ready? There it is. Does that look like a horn-loaded speaker or what? Is that the coolest? You can use that on your baffle. Mount your speaker, have this around the trim. That thing is cool. And there it is. Quick, easy. You can see you can do any from extreme top shaping, back shaping. If we wanted to, we could take the radius jig, this 2-inch radius jig, slap it right on here, and do radiuses on the corners. We could take the round over of any size and round over the whole top edge. There's still so much more work we can do to this. But I think it's pretty cool, very cool looking. We've got our little plexi window here. Pops right in there. Little see-through action. And you can do this very quickly, very easily. There's one last thing I'm going to show you how to do. I'm going to show you how to make a door panel, kick panel, pod, make the trim ring, make the baffle, make everything from scratch. All you have to do is draw up whatever you want and make it. So that's next. Okay, are you ready to make your baffle board, trim ring, all that good stuff? Well, I've got a stack of wood here. It's all 12 by 12, 1/2 inch thick. I don't know what I got here. I got 6 pieces. Don't know if I'll use them all, but I'll make sure I keep you tracking with me. So we're going to take our first piece and set the rest down. And I'm going to do our shape. I'm going to keep our shape as basic as I can. We've got the 2-inch ring, and I've got a 5 1/4 inch ring. And I'm just going to do a basic teardrop, just to keep it simple. I'm going to place these in a good area to give me enough meat. I'm going to staple them down. Okay, we got those in place. Very simple. So we're going to line these sticks up with the ring so I have one edge right here because I want a nice smooth transition of the bearing to go from this piece to this piece. From here to here. And then tack them on. Try to get 2 on each so they're nice and stable. Do the same thing with the other side. Now this is just my design. You can do whatever design you want. It does not matter. But this will give you an idea how you can compound sticks and radiuses to get your shape much quicker than doing a freehand with a sander or some other methods. Now you can pre-cut this. It's a good idea. So let's do that. Okay, once you have both sides, then you want to pull these off. Without pulling the rings off. Now very carefully, meet the bearing right here at the radius and come around, you'll be done. Now there's our piece. we can take this off now. And that's part number 1. Right there. There's part number 1. So here's our first piece. You saw us make it. 2 rings, 2 sticks, teardrop, piece of cake. Now you want to mark this so that it's your master, because you created it for the specific application. It has the outside diameters that you want. Okay, so there's your master. We'll call it master number 1, because you will have some other masters and some other parts to this. So take another piece of wood, and this is small enough that we could even get 2 off of it. So I'm going to snug it up against one side, and I'm going to brad nail it down. And I'm going to make a couple of duplications so we have them. All right, so we have a couple of duplications here. Now the master we're just going to leave on the side. We know it's always there. We're not even going to touch it. We're just going to leave it there. We're going to take one of the duplications and we're going to downsize it. So what I need to do is take these 2, put them together, and then downsize one of them, the thickness that we want the trim ring to be. Got that? Okay, we're going to basically create the inside diameter. So I'm going to staple these 2 together, and we're going to break out the rabbet bit, and I'm going to rabbet these in about a 1/2 inch. Here's our 2 masters. You want to staple them together, make sure they're lined up perfectly. Now you want to take your rabbet bit, and I've raised it up a 1/2 inch, but I also lined it up with the wood, and I made sure that it's not biting into the next piece. I mean, it's just a hair below it, because that'll just fall off. You can just do a little sanding. So you just want it a hair below. And it's a 1/2 inch distance between the collet and the outside. So we're going to downsize it 1/2 inch. There's our piece. You can see I was a little bit low, but that's the way you want it, just like that. And we'll just sand that off. Okay, we have our smaller piece. It's a 1/2 inch downsize with the rabbet bit. I'm going to put this master on the side and hold on to it for safekeepings. Now I'm going to duplicate this small one a couple times. So I'm going to take another piece of wood, and I'm going to nail this on here. And I'm going to pre-cut and do a couple of these as well. Okay, and then part 2, I'm going to duplicate this twice now. We've got master number 1 done. That was the first one we made. Master number 2 is done. Undercut 1/2 inch. Now, the same process that we did with number 2, we want to take one of these 2 pieces that we made, and we want to do it again. Okay, we want to keep these together and make another undercut in the 1/2 inch one more time. Now, you can't alter this size. You can do 1/4 inch or 3/8 or whatever. I'm just keeping 1/2 inch because it's simple for easy and training. All right? So, master number 2, I'm going to undercut it the same way I did number 1. Now we've got our 3 pieces made. We started with our master, number 1. We downsized it, number 2. Downsized it again, we got number 3. So you have something that looks like a bunch of steps here. And you can make different sizes with the same shape. If you want 1/4 inch steps, you can do every 1/4 inch, 3/8, 1/8 inch if you really want to go thin. So there they are. Now we're going to take number 3, the very small one, smallest one. We're going to place that on another sheet, 1/2 inch. and we're going to brad nail it down. This will be a little trickier cut for you because it's very precision. You got to take your time with it. But what we want to do is drill a 1/2 inch hole right up against here, put the bearing down and run it around, and then shut the router off, leave it intact so that we pull out the center. For this procedure, get yourself a 1/2 inch drill bit on the 1/2 inch drill. We're going to get our jiggy foam back up here. And very carefully on one of the flat surfaces, it's a surface that's easy repaired, put the drill bit so that the widest part is right where you can see it. Make sure you have it nice and level. Very little pressure right up against your tool, and drill your hole. Okay, better that we mess up the tool a little bit than be too far away from the part. So you really want to be right up against here, okay? That's fine, we can sand that and fix that. But if we go the other way, it's a little tough to fix. We've got our bit lined up, so we're about a 1/16 of an inch to 1/8 of an inch above. We want to test fit it. Now it's going to fit very tight. You may want to take some sandpaper to the back. Just sand that hole a little bit. Get any of that loose MDF out of the way. Press fit it on. And there she is. Now, you definitely are not going to want to let go of this. Okay? She's loose enough. Put a little force against the part. Hold it down nice and tight. And she'll turn on without a problem. Now take your time, keeping your pressure against this part. Now this will be the tricky part. You're going to want to go right before it finishes and stop. Right there. Pull this away, and that. I didn't finish the cut, as you can see. There's a little piece left sitting there, and we'll sand that with a little piece of sandpaper and a block. Here's our piece. I've got a little piece of MDF with some 80 grit on it. I'm just going to sand that nice and flat. Okay, this is also one of your masters. So this one's going to be number 4. Master number 4. Ready for a quick review, because this has a lot of steps to it. I want to make sure you guys know. Number 1, actual size. Okay, this is where your speakers will be mounted. Number 2, downsize 1/2 inch. You can downsize 1/4 if you want. Number 3, downsize again, same size, 1/4 or 1/2 inch. We took number 3, we placed it on another board, and we cut out. That's where we're at. Now, number 4 and number 2 should mate together if you cut it right. Now, you may have to do a little bit of sanding here and there, but not much. So they should mate up and give you a solid piece of wood. So what you want to do next is take number 1 and number 2 and mount them together. And this is going to be a permanent mount, so if you want to use glue, go right ahead, or longer brads. So there's number 2 on top of number 1. And these two will mate together. And you'll hold on to this. And that is your complete jig for making the base and the trim ring. So what you can do is what I did with this one here. So I put a hole in it, and I wrote on it what it's for. I put router video part 2, select products. And now I'm going to show you how to make the base and the trim ring with these parts. Step number 1 will be to cut the center hole out of the piece of wood that you want. Here's our piece of wood. We're going to mount these together, pop a couple brads in it. one extra, why not? Drill a hole, boom, run it on the router. Man, that thing's massive. Clean off the back. Make sure she fits before we turn her on. Put our shield on. Hold her tight. Careful at the end here. You see I'm holding on to the two pieces. Now we'll separate these. Put our master back on the wall. We're done with that for now. Now we'll take number 2 and number 1 and put them together. And again, flush trim. Look at that. How long did that take? So as you can see, that didn't take very long at all. Once you have these pieces and you keep them on the wall, you've seen me duplicate it a couple 20 times during this video. Making the master is very easy. Tape it down, run it around, nail it down, whichever you want to do. You saw me make the trim ring in record time. That's a 1/2-inch trim ring. I recommend building one of these first before you get into the thinner ones, because the thinner you go, the harder they are to make. But there was a trim ring in very little time. And that's it for our router bit video. My name is Robert Garza, and if you keep buying the videos, I'll keep making them. Take it easy.